The reason that we started the podcast was to give people our perspective and go along the journey with us.
Kind of use that as a motivating factor, or has that changed the way that you've approached your journey of entrepreneurship?
But I would say stick to doing something long enough that you become proficient at it.
The impact a mentor has had on you, it's just enabled you to think in a different way.
A peak of a profession at such a young age. So it's like cool to be like, wow, these guys can do this.
Some people are actually better off working the 9-to-5 lifestyle, even if you have to answer to someone else and you have to clock in.
I just thought life was too short to be able to have somebody else control your time.
We're both really passionate about something, and we always pick the relationship over money and the relationship over the business. Welcome back to the Wealth Juice podcast. As always, it's your boys, Ryan and Cory, here with another episode for you. Today, we are going to do a behind the microphone episode. And the purpose of this episode is for you to get to know and understand the way Cory thinks, the way he ticks, and just to get to know us more on a personal level. We'll do an interview with Cory on this episode. And then a couple of weeks later, we will release an episode where Cory interviews me. Figure this would be a good kind of flip of the script, so you guys could get to know us a little bit better and see kind of behind the curtains how we do everything.
Yeah. And if you haven't been listening, I just want to jump in, Ryan. If you haven't been listening since some people have since the beginning, right? 5 years ago. If you haven't, we have some new listeners. So I think it's really useful to when you listen to us interview people to be like, oh, who are the guys behind the microphone? How are they thinking about things? Because we do get into it in some episodes, but just kind of almost like a refresher and maybe a deeper dive than we normally give on any of our episodes about just you and I. So I know you kind of already mentioned that, but I think it's useful.
Love it. So if someone only knows you from Instagram or our podcast, what do you think they're missing about who you really are? What have we not shared with the audience that could get to know you on a little bit of a deeper level?
I think that maybe one thing that I don't know if it shines through all the time is that I'm a kind of a born coach in a way. I grew up playing basketball my whole life, and I dedicated my whole childhood to it. It was just something I was obsessive over. But I didn't grow that tall, right? I'm 5'8", 5'9" on a good day. So, my career, if you will, in basketball, I had some Division III looks, but I decided to go to Temple University and not play. So I kind of knew I had this intensity of it that I really wanted to give the knowledge that I had in my head that I couldn't necessarily deliver on the court because I just wasn't good enough. I was a decent player. When I was really young, I was very good. And then, you get caught up to basically at a certain point. So I played varsity several years, but I never played in college. And I wanted to be able to give younger players who are actually better than me the thoughts that I had and the way that I viewed the game and watch them actually be able to act it out. And that, to me, I think we don't talk about enough. So we kind of bring that back into our real estate journey is the reason that we started the podcast was to give people our perspective and go along the journey with us. And I hope that it shines through that there's a genuine, real passion for helping other people, because I remember what it was like with us growing up, but just getting into the business world and not really having a mentor and then developing one, and what it was like when they really showed us what to do and had someone looking over our shoulder. So I think if there's anything that maybe people are missing is that, because, Instagram is a marketing tool, right? So you can't learn too much about somebody from a 30-second or 60-second clip. So I think I would hope that people see that I genuinely care about the success of other people. And I've always said that this whole thing is not about the destination of the journey. It's about the company. So I want to surround myself with people who want to get better and are givers. And I try to be that as much as I can, even though I do have some selfish tendencies. Who doesn't, right? So that's what I hope shines through.
Yeah. So let's do it. Cory, so we're going to start with basically your origin story and then kind of pick your brain on how and why you became an entrepreneur. So let's take it back, and I'm going to give you one of the questions that we usually ask listeners at the end of an episode, but I want to start here. It's knowing what you know now about the world, yourself, and kind of how everything has evolved over the last couple of years. If you could sit down with your 18-year-old self, pending he would listen, what advice would you give him?
This is a good question. I've kind of had a hard time thinking about the answer to this one because I think our lives changed so significantly between when, we're in our early to mid 30s and when we were 18. But I would say stick to doing something long enough that you become proficient at it. And I think proficiency probably stems in a 3 to 5 year time frame. So that would be my advice to anyone who's 18 or my younger self, is like, stick to something long enough to know if you're actually going to be good at it. And then your passion can be derived from your competency in becoming good at something, as opposed to like, like giving something a try for 6 months and then you're not good at it inevitably, because you won't be. Like, how could you be, right? You have to give something enough of the ups and downs. You have to go through those downs to be like, all right, I have to push through this plateau. And once I get through that, like, okay, do I like this the way that I thought I liked it? Am I good at it? You're inevitably going to get better after a year or two of doing something. But that 3 to 5 year time frame, do something for that long to know if it's going to work. And then you can always pivot, because by that time, I'm 22, 21, right? Like, you can pivot when you're 57. So that's probably the advice I would give to my 18-year-old self. Like, do something long enough to know if you're actually good at it. And it's longer than you actually think.
Yeah, I love it, man. And I did want to go here. I'm glad you brought this up. Is, at one point, I think you debated becoming a coach, like a basketball coach, just full time, and kind of realized, hey, listen, the dollars aren't going to equate here to me, making, having financial stability, if you will, right? Unless I'm going to become a pro coach, which is going to take years of moving around the country and a lot of sacrifice. And so I think you found a nice happy blend here. Not sure if many people know, but you coach now. While you did coach while you were working your W-2 job, you still coach now as a full-time entrepreneur. And one of your early mentors was one of the founders of And One Basketball, which is incredible. And I think just being able to watch you learn from him, and just some of the insight and the wisdom you've dropped on me from things that you've learned from him. Now he's a VC guy. It's just been so incredible. But I think parlaying that into skill sets and kind of like living, he's just watching that, the impact a mentor has had on you, it's just enabled you to think in a different way. And another fun fact about going through that journey of kind of being his shadow, right? As his assistant coach, you guys also coached a number of players that have gone to the NBA. And I think that's a fun fact about you that no one knows. And you've coached and helped train some of the best in the world at what they do. And maybe if you could give us some of the names of the NBA players that are now in the NBA or have dabbled, that'd be kind of cool to learn a little bit more.
Yeah, I've coached. I was actually not there when Mohamed Bamba was in high school, but I coached Mohamed Bamba. I didn't coach him, but he came through the program. Cam Reddish, his senior year. Derek Lively is the most recent. Daniel Oshefu is a younger. He's actually my age. I didn't coach him, but he came through, went to Villanova, and went into the NBA for a little bit. But Derek Lively is the most recent, and he's just, like, to watch a kid. I remember he was like, 6'7" at like 13. Just to watch a kid grow, like not just grow physically, but just like grow as a person. Like, and there's no way Derek's listening, but he lost his mom recently, and I think about him all the time. But to watch a kid from 14 to 18, to watch them develop as a human being and learn their tendencies, there's been nothing that has kept me more youthful and just like inspired about living life, because kids they're so resourceful, and they just, the things that happen in life haven't really hit them yet, and they're just like so happy all the time, and it keeps me happy. So those guys are the elite of the elite. But I've also coached 100 Division I players who have made just as much of an impact on me, who, playing in the NBA is 0.00001%. Like, that's just the top of the level, like the top of the game. So it actually motivates me in a way, because I watch an 18-year-old go make $3 million a year, and then $8 million a year, and then $12 million a year. And I watch them do that because of a skill set that they've developed, and it motivates me. We don't make that much money, and it's not about the money, but it's just like, we don't, like, that's a peak of life that they've hit, a peak of a profession at such a young age. So it's like cool to be like, wow, these guys can do this at like, what? I'm older, I'm more experienced. Like, I can probably figure out my way into a peak of our own world. And I just think it's another way to be around high performers. Like, so I purposely didn't go to a public school or coach where I went, because I wasn't very good. I wanted to coach elite talent. And it's helped me become better at what we do.
100%. So you mentioned Mohamed Bamba. It's actually Mo Bamba for the casual NBA fan. Yeah, so I was wondering, I was like, dude, I don't remember that name, but yes. So he actually played in the Sixers for a while too, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, thanks for sharing that. I just wanted to give people a little bit of a peek behind the curtain. You dabbled in the NBA circle for a while. You're a coach, born and bred. I think I don't know. It seems like you have it in your blood. I mean, you're doing that today too, not only for our community, but then also still for the guys kind of moving up into the world. So I wanted to pivot here a little bit and talk about the journey into entrepreneurship, right? You work the 9 to 5, you're still coaching basketball on the side and still following your passions, but you recently pivoted to pursuing our business full time, starting in late September last year. So, can you talk about the moment that you realized the 9 to 5 path wasn't for you long term?
I don't know if, I mean, honestly, I think the moment was like when I was like 23 or 24, but I didn't have the means to make it happen back then. I just kind of thought to myself, like, once I like read a couple books and realized that there were other people that were doing this differently, I just had this like thing in the back of my head and kind of in my heart too, that I was like, I just don't want to be told like where to be and what to do. And like, I just thought life was too short to be able to have somebody else control your time. And just thinking that doesn't really help you that much, because you can think that, but then still kind of be a quote unquote slave in that way, slave to the 9 to 5, if you will, because you have to make money to survive. Like, so anybody who's thinking that in their head, it's like you have to build a plan out, and it could take 8 years. Since the start of when I worked, it took 10, to even really be able to leave. So I kind of knew that I was like, I just want to create my own, like, I just want to create my own destiny. And I've heard the quote, like, create your own luck, like luck is created. And that's by the effort and energy and the people you surround yourself with. Like, if you're surrounding yourself with people who have done the entrepreneurial thing, you're 100 times more likely to be able to swim in that pond. So I think it was early, but I didn't know what to do. And then we found real estate. And then I realized, like, I didn't really fall in love with the bricks and the drywall. I just kind of fell in love with like the creativity of change, the tangibility of it, and also the what it brought us in terms of cash flow, principal pay down, appreciation, and all the tax benefits. And then I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, I could show people what I've done. So I don't know if that totally answered your question, but it was when I was young. I just, my dad was an entrepreneur, and we can get into that too. My dad is an entrepreneur. So I think that helped shaped it, but I learned a lot, good, bad, and ugly, from him.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect lead in. My next question was going to be actually leading into your upbringing. So really the question is, how did your upbringing shape your beliefs around money and success? And was there a belief that you had to unlearn at any point?
My dad was, always at every game. I had an amazing upbringing. He was always there. He was like the most present dad. And I didn't really know until I got into the family business what it entailed. I actually, to be candid, I thought that we were a lot wealthier than we were because of how my dad prioritized our family. And I thank him so much for that, because I have such a great relationship with him, and he has such a great relationship with our sibling, like my sister and my brother. I'm really glad that he didn't sacrifice family to build more wealth in a way, like if I were to ask him today, he would probably say, yeah, I wish it went a little bit different. But I think what I learned is that, building a family and being present is inevitably what people try to get themselves back to. So if you say that's your why and that's what you're doing it for, you don't have to sacrifice it all the way along the way to live like a great life, because it's really hard to get back to, because there's precious years that I'm not aware of. I'm not a father, but there's precious years that you don't get back. So to create a relationship with a 14-year-old because you neglected years 2 to 12, that's going to be really hard, right? So I think in terms of shaping my beliefs, I thought we were wealthier than we were. But I have such an amazing relationship. I had this yearning for a little bit more freedom. My dad and my uncle created their father created this business that they were kind of like golden handcuffed to, because they were the business, and they never really built out like a full team and system to work. And they made good money, but it never exploded the way that they thought it would, because they kept themselves stuck in the business. So I had to unlearn like that aspect of like, okay, like if I'm going to go into this business, I have to have the entrepreneurial spirit, but then I have to do it a little bit differently. And that's, I think, some of the things I've learned.
So I want to dive in and kind of like magnify this one point that you made. And you thought that your dad was a little bit more well off than he was. And when did you realize that it wasn't exactly what you thought? And what have you done since to kind of use that as a motivating factor, or has that changed the way that you've approached your journey of entrepreneurship?
Probably didn't realize it until I went into the business when I was like 26. And I got to see like the inner workings of it, and some months being profitable, some months not being profitable, and not having like a real scaling mechanism. And I realized I watched the way that they worked, and I watched the way that they interacted, and what a brotherhood the two of them had. But it wasn't always pretty, and I was always in the middle of it. So I think what it taught me is that I wanted to create something that I truly loved to do, because my father and my uncle got into a family business that their father started, and it was their thing that they grew, but they didn't really decide that that was the thing that they wanted to do. They just did it because they were 18 and 17, and they got into it, and they never left. They stayed into it. Credit to them. For 45 years, they put their head down and they went to work. But I realized that I didn't want to do something that I wasn't like all in on, that I could see, that I dreamt about, that I slept, that like I thought about it all times. And I kind of felt like, I don't know if my dad like loved the family business as much as he loved the family and the business, So I think that's the influence that it had. And I realized that, I think Alex Hormozy has said this is why they say to do something for long enough to know if you like really, if it's your thing, because somebody said to him, yeah, the grass is always greener until you realize that the other grass is fertilized with shit. But you don't know that until you get to that other thing. And so like I went going into the family business, eyes wide open, like I'm going to make all this money, everything's going to be great. And then you just see how hard it is to grow a company. And so it wasn't until I started actually in the business, and then I realized like there's so many great things here, but it wasn't going to be for me long term. And most people would say, well, why wouldn't you take over a thriving family business? And it's like, well, the third generation normally screws it up anyway. So,
well, there's a lot to that too. I decently well off growing up too. And my dad has his own company, and his two brothers have their own companies, and they're entrepreneurs, right? I always felt like it was in my blood. And at some point I would become an entrepreneur. He always told me, you're going to want to work for yourself one day just to be able to control your time, control your schedule. And don't worry, I'm not going to make this all about me, but I just want to like equate that. Like we both grew up in entrepreneurial households, and I think it does truly shape you in certain ways. And though it kind of felt like we never really needed to want for anything, there's certain pullbacks. Like I didn't see my dad all the time. He wasn't home for dinner every night, but he coached us and he was at my games and things. And like there was a lot. I don't have any resentment or anything. And now that I'm an entrepreneur, I realize all the things that he had to go through and sacrifice just to be there. And I'm like, oh man, he created his own baby and is nurturing it, right? Not only are there 3 boys at home that my mom's raising, but he's raising this behemoth that behind the scenes just seems like it's working, right? And you're like, okay, this is great. Money's coming in, whatever. But now I know, having gone through the journey 5-6 years with you, and he doesn't have a partner, but still just going through the journey, it was tough. And he's still, I could just tell like he's been through the ringer in certain things, and similar to your dad and your uncle. So it's interesting. You always think people, you're better off becoming an entrepreneur, right? And I don't think it's always the case for everybody. And I want to just make, pinpoint that. Like some people are actually better off working the 9-to-5 lifestyle, even if you have to answer to someone else and you have to clock in, having the benefits, a high salary, and being around other people and having that community of the 9-to-5 world. If that's your thing, that's your thing, right? It takes a different person to become an entrepreneur. So
it's definitely not for everybody. That's the point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the point. And so I just wanted to bring that up. It's interesting, and we'll get into that when we chat about me. But I wanted to ask you, looking back and kind of dialing in on your dad and your uncle's relationship, right? That's their business together. Has there anything that you learned about their partnership impacted the way you work with me and kind of how we handle our partnership, maybe on something that I would never know about?
My dad has an older brother and a younger brother. He's in the middle. And, we would go to family I'm very close with my uncles and my whole family. So we go to family gatherings my entire life. And if you were on a cousin or a daughter or a son or a spouse, you would never know that there would the turmoil or the problems that they were having at the company. They never brought it to the family. And that is like a thing I'm proud to be of as a Jacobson, because I watched them hide all the things from the family, and we had such a great close knit family and relationship. And I think that most family businesses don't really end that way. Maybe they end up being more quote unquote and air quotes successful, but they sometimes fall apart because of money, and they never put the money before the blood. And I think that's maybe what I brought to our relationship, maybe inadvertently or on purpose, that I just it's never, no amount of money is ever more important than the connection and the love that they share and we share. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that I learned, is how to separate that, and just it doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank account if you're not doing it with other people, like being alone in that sense, or like the greed can never win. So that to me is huge.
Yeah, I really like that. And you do a really good job of, I'll give you your roses here. We circle up a lot, like when emotions can get high, and not really like turmoil by any means, but like if we're like, if you can tell we're both really passionate about something, and just, we always pick the relationship over money and the relationship over the business, because the money's going to come and go throughout this trajectory here, right? And you never want to burn a bridge, and you never want to ruin a relationship. We were friends first, right? So I appreciate that. And I think you did probably learn that, whether it was subliminally or just like kind of it was drilled in your head at a young age. Maybe they kind of told you about that and said, hey, this is how you should learn from us. So it's just a very interesting thing, and I appreciate that, because we constantly remind each other of that. And that's kind of what gets us through. We've had some high highs, some low lows, and then sometimes even just the middle ground is like, damn, like we need to be better. So it's an interesting thing. And on the flip side, my dad always told me to never have a partner because it'll never work. And it's so interesting. And he's just one of many, right? That's like a very common thing to hear when you're going into business. But I always think about this, like, just because someone else tells you something, that's a fear that they're projecting on you, or something that they tried and it didn't work in their life. And so they're just telling you their experience. And, I really do listen to what my dad says, and he has a lot of great knowledge going through the entrepreneurial game, and had some wins and losses and all that. But for me, it's almost like a little bit of a chip to say, hey, like, I want to prove that it can work, and we're going to figure it out. And so there's so many ways to hedge that and like figure it out. We have like the operating agreement, we have, we go through the insurance world, but like, that's just like the black and white stuff. The emotional stuff is the big part, is like, we can't let the outside world impact our sphere, our little bubble, because if we get rattled, then we get thrown off course. It can just shake the boat too much. And so I just want to bring that up, because partnerships, they're tough in any way, shape, or form, but they're also beautiful in a lot of ways too. And like you mentioned, I look at my dad now, and he didn't have any partners, and he's still working, and he's not as passionate there. My younger brother works for him. It's great. They're like going, but they have their own little relationship too, right? But he doesn't have someone to share it with and like explain everything. No one really understands him on that level. Now my brother has become that person, which is great. But for a while there, I saw him just kind of going through the motions. I'm like, dude, like something's missing. And so I personally just equate this to, you ever go on a vacation, right? And you're by yourself, or you see the world, and something amazing happens and you're just by yourself. I remember this is when I was single, and I'm like, man, like, this is cool, but I just want to share this with someone else. Then the Instagram came, and everybody's showing, that's how they're like filling that void, and they're showing everybody what they're doing. It's like, but still fake. Then when you have a spouse or a best friend or a partner, like, it's the best, and you can share things with that person. And so, you'll understand that when you got, I'm sure this is very like resonates with a lot of people that are listening, because we've been through this exact kind of motion. But I'll pivot here a little bit. And I kind of want to talk about I'll tie this in a bow here, but like going back to your younger self again. I know I already asked you the question of like your 18-year-old self, but if I asked your younger self if this is where you'd end up, right? Like today, I know we're not at the pinnacle. What would he say? Is this where you ever thought you would land? Or do you think he would be thinking you're doing something completely different if you're looking at your, I don't want to call him 18-year-old self. Probably let's call it like the 15, 16-year-old self who doesn't really understand anything about business or life.
I don't know that there would be any way to like actually predict where you end up, and like and even end up is an interesting like way to phrase it, because like we're just firing up the engines here a little bit, So I think the answer would be no. Like, I don't know how I would, I don't even know how I would predict that. I didn't even know I would get into real estate. I didn't know that I knew that I would be coaching in some capacity. I mean, probably my 15-year-old self maybe thought that I would after playing basketball, become a coach and maybe work my way up the ranks there. But I don't know. I've always had this intensity about me that I feel like I just wanted to be great at something. And it kind of goes back to, we've talked about this a couple times, like being the oldest sibling. I have a hard time like even accepting like not gifts, but like help from people. You know what I mean? Like when my siblings or people are like, here, here's help, or here, I just like, I want to be the one to give that, and I don't know what that is, but I think that it kind of goes back and like, I think my younger self would assume that my older self would be the person that is like giving back to the family and helping the family and maybe helping driving it forward. And if anybody needs anything, like that would be my role as an oldest sibling. So I think that I always try to do that. I don't know if I could say if that's if I knew I would end up in this position, probably not.
Let me rephrase. Would your younger self be proud of the person that you become today?
I would hope so. Yeah, I really would hope so. I have this conversation with my girlfriend all the time. It's just like, this thing that we're doing it's an ever moving and ever changing landscape. And I just really want to be, not really remembered, but just like be a good person to other people and have them feel like they're heard. And she tells me I'm a good listener, and I hope that I am. And I feel like that goes into our podcast and our real estate and our coaching. Like, I just want to be able to people feel like that I give them a platform to be heard. And I think my younger self would be proud. But I just feel like we have so much more to do.
Yeah. I'm going to just say, I will say, I think he would be proud because, when you grow up, and I just know this because I know your family and they raise you right. Like you guys are raised on high morals, high values, ethics, treating people, everyone on the same wavelength, no matter if they have a ton or they have nothing. And for you to be serving so many people with your voice and not only amplifying others, right? The people that you interview on the podcast, but also the people you helping get their first deal, get them on the path to generational wealth, just answering questions that simple people in your life, not just people in the DMs, but there's so many people you've done countless one-on-ones with. And I'm like, I'm always asking, this has happened a million times over the years. And there's so many more people that just get woven in from your network of friends and family that you're just helping because they see what you're doing. And so I'll answer the question for you, and I'll just say they would be proud of you. I think you're doing a great thing. And it's not all, as we know, this is not all based on money and numbers and things. And I think your dad would say the same thing. And I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but watching as a dad, I can speak on this, watching you go, start at the 9 to 5, working for a great NBA franchise. And then that was probably a proud moment for him. Also watching you coach people on the side that eventually went into the NBA, something that probably you had a dream of being a kid. That is another thing. I'll probably put a smile on his face. Coming into the family business, him getting to work with you every single day and just seeing how you work, he's probably proud of that. And then the day that you had the gall to say, hey, Dad, I'm out. Like, I want to go spread my wings and fly. I think I got this thing. Like, come on, man. Like, he's like, I'm choking up like that. Like, you're good, dude. I'll answer a question. You should be proud of yourself, and your family should too, because it's cool. I'm proud of you as your partner. It's so cool to watch this. And as a friend, dude, we've been together, 13 years, and like watching us both evolve is crazy, but like I got to watch it firsthand, which is so cool. So, I will not cue the duck boats here and get us all teary-eyed, but you're doing great things, bro. I didn't think I was going there, but
yeah, man,
there you go.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. So this one's a cool one, and this is I think this helps us. Like, right, we talk about the things that we've done, but there's an intrinsic motivation. We talked about maybe being the firstborn children, right? We're born into an entrepreneurial family, all these things, but there's always something that makes you tick, right? Whether it's chip, whether it's like you at your core, and everyone has their different reasoning for this. But if you could pinpoint it or maybe talk about it, what's your why? The thing that gets you out of bed every morning to motivate you and just keep that engine running, that fire ignited. What is it?
I'm not sure if I know exactly where it comes from, but I do have this like thing in the back of my head that's like, well, I feel like I was raised so well that I just want to give back to, like, I want to like let my parents ride off into the sunset. And I've said this, I hope he's not listening because I want it to be like a surprise type thing. But like, I mean, I do have a goal to like pay off my dad's mortgage um, in the next few years because I just want him. Like, I've watched him go through the ups and the downs, and COVID had a big impact on him mentally, and just like having him like kind of struggle and thrive at some aspects of growing his business, and just wanted to telling my mom her whole life she didn't need to work, and just like letting her raise us, and just sheltering us from the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there's been so much. I think the why really stems from just like letting me be the one to take care of them at a certain point in time. And I really want to. That's a thing that I really want to do. So I've seen it happen on like, you ever watch those like minor league baseball players get the major league contract and they come home and they like just be like, hey, Dad, I paid off your mortgage. And like, it hasn't happened that quickly for us. I think our major league days have come and gone, brother. But it's more so just the ability to like give back to the people that molded you, and that's, I think people forget that. And I feel bad for people that don't have a really good relationship with their family. So that really is a why. I do think about it like a lot, and I'm hoping that, let's see, I'm 33. I'm hoping by the time I'm 40, I can make it happen. And I'm pretty sure I can.
That's really cool. No, I love that. I've seen those videos too. And actually you bringing that up makes me, over the time, I've actually been thinking about this too. It's like, I always want to be the one that just like was able to pay for like a vacation for us all to go to, right? Just like, hey, it's on me. You always see people like jumping on the private jet or whatever it is. I don't need it to be that big. I don't need tens of millions of dollars, but to be able to say, how many times have we gone out to eat as kids or whatever it is, like paying for our travel, basketball, football, whatever, and just like never a question. Now I realize how hard that is for our parents to be able to do that. And so if you can go take it to the 10th level and pay off their mortgage, like, come on, man, there's nothing better than that. And mine's not so on my parents' side, but just, I'm really close with my brothers. And so my goal is my brother has his, he's got his primary residence. He's just got the big house and they built it from the ground up, which is awesome. And like, I just know he's taking a big mortgage for that. And then he still has this other property, and I want to be able to do the same thing and just like show up and just one day him like getting just the notice in the mail that like, hey, thanks for paying off your mortgage. And they'd be like, what? He'll have no idea. And I only say this, I know he won't be listening, which is good. Podcasts aren't really his thing, but he works in construction, dude. And like, not in the trenches all the time. Like he has definitely put in the brute work for that, but he's learning to run a business and all these things, but to be able to just have that weight or burden like lifted, right? Any way you can help. I just think it's so nice. And, he's got a little, a son coming into the world and just all this stuff. And you just want to be able to impact people if you can. If we have it, why not, help the people that helped you grow and shape who you are, right? So I have the same sentiment. I love it, dude. You, once again, you motivated me to think like that too. And I also want to help my other younger brother. He doesn't have a house yet. Like, let's get him a house hack, we'll talk about that. But I think you have motivated me by that, your core and your why of being that for your dad. You've said that since day one. I'm just like, dude, I'm doing that too. Like, I love it. So I appreciate you saying that and bringing it up. And I got a thinker for you here. So this one's another philosophical one, but do you think you're chasing freedom, or do you think you're running from something when you talk about this entrepreneurial game and kind of going to work every day?
I'd like to think I'm chasing freedom. I've never really thought about that question, honestly. Even in preparation for the episode, I didn't run across this. So I think that there's an element maybe of me that's running from being like, felt like I'm trapped, or like that I have to do something because I can't financially make another decision and I'm desperate. But I do like to think I'm chasing freedom. I just think I've seen people travel and just live a great life, and there's behind the scenes stuff that you wouldn't know, right? I mean, but putting the family and putting the relationships at the forefront, and then letting the freedom and all of that like come after, I think there's solace in like things are good now, by the way. Like, I feel great about my life, and I'm okay to like stay in this moment and not feel like I have to rush anything. But I really do think that I'll kind of forever be chasing the freedom, but recognizing that comes with the price and the weight of it potentially not working out. That's kind of like, it just candidly, like we've talked about this, like we had a really, really, like since the business has started, we've had an uprising of how things have went. And then we're recording this in May, but April was a really, really, really difficult month mentally and just the business wise. And, you know, I had this conversation with my girlfriend the other night. It's like, you know, do you think any single person that we've ever talked to that have done something great, like you have to go through these periods of like negativity and it's not working and second guessing in order to have anything good. And I think that comes back to the question of like chasing freedom. Like I'm chasing this thing that, you know, maybe you never feel like you actually get it, but like, man, the journey's got to be something that you enjoy. So, and I am, even in the shitty months, even in the bad, quote unquote, if this is a bad time, I think everything's all right. You know,
I feel like I can answer these questions for you. It's so interesting. And I mean like about you, because the emotions are out of it and like the logic, and I just know you. So it's so interesting. Like and I'm not telling you who you are, right? And I don't want, and I could be way off on this, but I also see a side of you that fears failure in a way that like, you're just not like, you don't want to fail. And I don't mean that in a way of like, you're afraid of it. And it's like, maybe fear is not the right thing, but you're like, you like refuse to fail kind of thing. And you're just like, hey, you'll kick yourself into a different gear or just like ramp things up when they have to go. And like that quick start becomes like a pestering of like, I got to do. And you get in your head and you do, you know, just, so it's this interesting thing where I don't know that you're chasing this like massive life, because I think it's going to come. And I think that carrot's always dangled for everyone. But I think the fear of you failing and you thinking about that drives you so to like the 20th degree, dude. And I know that about you, because we've like, if I've seen that in this last month, maybe. And I think it's probably, the answer is probably like, it's both, right? You can't pick one, but seeing this month, you're like, dude, it's not happening. Like, I'm not letting it happen.
Well, dude, I mean, you're probably right. I hope this resonates with people. And the reason for doing this is not to like have it be all about us, but I'm hoping people will resonate with the sentiment and the story, and like they can relate this to their own life. But I think we talked about the firstborn. We talked about like, I've had a lot of people say to me like, oh, like I got into real estate because of you. You 3rd degrees of separation impacted me. Good friends, people that are in our community. I'm not going to say names. I don't, but like, they're like, yeah, you paved the way. Like I bought this property and I did that because I was listening to you do it and build in public, as I've heard a good friend of mine said. And so I think that maybe deep down, going back to those people and family and being like, it didn't work out, is like not an option, you know? So like that is maybe the running from like, how could somebody who got me into it, how could it not work out for him? And if it doesn't work out for him, then am I letting them down motivationally to have it not work out for them? And I think maybe that is a thing. And I think the challenge, one of the biggest challenges that's presented to any business owner is sometimes you don't know what to do. So it's not that you aren't working hard, but some weeks will go by and I'm like, I don't think I did enough of the right things. And that I have that in my head a lot. I'm like, I feel like I'm working really, really hard, but are you doing all of the right things? And that's when you need to bring in people that have seen it and done it to tell you that you are. And that's like a fear-based thing. It's like, well, I didn't work any less hard in April than I did in March. And the results were -100. So I'm like, wow. Like, am I, you know,
They weren't negative 100.
No, they weren't. And you let me know the other day, like, okay, we did these 12 things. And I'm like, wow, we did all these 12. You're right. We built a foundation. It didn't work out the way that I thought in terms of dollars and cents, but that is business, you know? And I hope people like take this and are like, I hope they're glad that we're sharing, you know, because it's not all roses and sunshine.
No, it's not.
People think it is.
No, and then we keep each other grounded, dude. I could tell you're having a tough month, and like when the dollars aren't coming, don't get me wrong, we still had dollars coming in. They just weren't.
Yes, dollars
they were
from our real estate portfolio.
I had to remind you of that too. I'm like, dude, we actually we had a sponsorship come in, we had some other stuff, and we're like, and though it wasn't exactly where we were in March, that's why, because you're like, damn, like, are we taking a step back? But this whole game is a roller coaster, and we've been told in the beginning, like, it's not a linear path. You have to be willing to basically work for nothing for 5 years, which we did, by the way, and finally build something. So it all kind of is going in line, this like crazy roller coaster line. Like we're halfway through what people told us. Like they'd be like, dude, to make a real name for yourself, you have to put 10 years into this thing. And we kind of laughed it off in the beginning. We're like, oh, okay. But it's so true. We're halfway and we're like, damn, like we are seeing some growth right now. But it's still very hard because you're building out the system. We've tried and pivoted a bunch of different businesses, right? It comes back to the thing that we actually know, like, and trust about ourselves, and like what we, the angle we really want to go to. So just, we're in a good place. I will say it is important to remind yourself of those wins that aren't dollars and cents. I talked about all the mountains that we moved. We got our course out. There were so many big boulders. I wish I got to go back to my text and like let you know exactly what we did again. And we don't have to really disclose them on here, but it was one of those things where like, whoa, these are big projects that they were taking us months, and we got them done. And because the dollars weren't coming in, it just felt like we didn't do anything that month. I'm like, dude, we have done a lot. So it was a culmination of that. And I think it's going to hockey stick again, towards the mid and the end of the year. Plus now we're getting the right people, and we've hired people in the right spots. That's what it was, like the consultants and things like that. And like the coaches, again, we keep reminding ourselves like, hey, we keep preaching this to other people. Where are we lacking? Who do we have to, what role do we have to fill? We can't do everything. We can try our best, but so they're good reminders. Another thing I wanted to touch on too, which it just really resonated with me. So you talking about the impact of people in your close circle, we had talked about this on another episode, but being like the firstborn, or like the first to do everything in our lives, right? Like, from just on my side, to like correlate it to your story, is like first one to move from the town I was in to go to a different high school, first one to go to college, first one to get married, first one to have a baby, first one to start a business, first one to do things. And I didn't even realize, dude. And I had a close friend kind of to your sentiment, like you, he's like, you were the first, you built in public, right? Kind of thing. And you're like, whoa, like I didn't realize you were watching. And I had that from a buddy of mine. And so it's like, if you are saying and preaching that you're the disruptor and you're not going to go the same path, you can't fail. And so I think that's a part of us. We're like, dude, we have that behind us where we can't let all those people down, because there's people that want to do what we're doing. And just because it's hard, that it doesn't mean we can't keep going. Like we need to push ourselves forward and force our way through this thing. And so that just really resonated with me, because I think we have our whys, like they intertwine a lot, man. We have like a very synergistic stuff. We have things we never talked about at the beginning of our partnership. And it's funny. It's like, it really is maybe kind of unfolding before our eyes, like how we got into partnership, like why it's worked so well together, how we've learned and pivoted. So I think it's a fun episode to unpack and learn a little bit more about ourselves. So as we kind of trek through this thing, just a couple more things I have for you that I think will resonate with the audience. But right now, I know it's probably, high focus, high energy for you here. So, we don't have to unpack the whole rabbit hole, but what keeps you up right now in business or in life?
Keeps me up at night.
Mm-hmm.
What keeps me up at night is probably the trading off of security for the ability to have it all, but also to be at zero. So, if you work a 9-to-5 job, maybe your inner person actually craves security. And I will say to a lot of people, your actual growth is on the other side of the fear, like the other side of that comfort zone. So you might not realize it, but I've learned so much about myself, like leaving the 9-to-5 job. I would say that what keeps me up is realizing, okay, well, yeah, I can make 50 times, 100 times as much money and live 100 times as more of a free life by being in the 9-to-5. But there's no guarantee that any money comes in. Now we have real estate, and we say any, but like we have the real estate portfolio is bringing us money, right? But like we're still in the first 5 years of that. You don't really see the money from your real estate portfolio, even if it's a bunch of units, until year 10, 15. Like that's when it really starts to kick in, So I think what keeps me up is knowing that it's all on me and us. And there's no security blanket. There's no pillow underneath us. It's like you have to go out and build it, and no one is going to help you if you don't. So I'll go back to saying, I think it's better to live that way, and it's better to pursue that thing than to wish you did your whole life. So
yeah,
that's it.
That's nice. I like that a lot. All right. I got as we kind of go to the later part of the episode here, I want to dive a little bit more into business, our partnership, and then at the end we'll tie in some fun things, just like hobbies and things that you like to do, so people actually know who Cory Jacobson really is outside of just the podcast and building businesses. But let's talk about us. I think people want to know this because we've been in business for a while together, and they're thinking about getting into a partnership. Can you talk about the role that you hold within our business? Do you view yourself as the visionary, the integrator, something else, a blend? Like, how does it work, and how do you see yourself in this, two-headed beast?
I think without a doubt, I'm the visionary, because I'm really good at coming up with ideas and really bad at executing on them. And I think you have some visionary in you too, but I think that you've adopted the role of the integrator because you're better at it and you're like a doer of the thing, and I'm not saying that I'm not, but I am more of I think this path is a good path. I think this is what we should do. This is what we should implement. And front-facing sales marketing. I like talking to a camera. I like showing my face. So I think that has been the role I've adopted. Like, just the idea to start the podcast. We both had the idea to get into real estate, right? But like the idea and the front of our brand, I think, is the role I have. Doing sales calls, doing creating the ads for our company. Working with marketing and sales. So that's the stuff I like to do, that is light. And then you've kind of adopted more of the integrator of like, let me build this email sequence. Let me build the back end system. Like, let me create the landing page and the decks. And I don't know if that's stuff that I know that you're creative in that aspect. But there's some blend of both of it for you. I mean, like, you're pretty good at sales and marketing as well. So that's the role that I've adopted. And we've talked about it a couple of times, but finding somebody that in your life that can kind of have, you need to have the vision that you want to go far together, but the parlaying of the skill sets, I think, is really important.
Yeah. And I think it's the seasons of the business. Like, what do we need right now? And like, what are we able to do with the time that we have, right? We're both putting together the Instagram posts. I guess I'm more of the creator of the titles, and I'm like the writer, the scribe, if you will, right? And then like the back end guy for sure, and then you're the front facing guy. So it's cool. We do have a happy blend here, and I think it's just going to continue to evolve, right? And like, I think driving the business forward and like making certain decisions, like it's hard to see who, like who's the CEO, who's the COO. I think we really kind of do wear both hats. It's so hard. Like we make most decisions 50-50. So we can unpack that in a partnership episode, but yeah, I just wanted to highlight that a little bit for people that haven't heard the previous episodes. We talked about that. And then, okay, so here's a fun one. What's one thing you've learned about working with me that you didn't expect going into this whole game?
That's a good question. Probably that you and I will go through like periods of extreme, like, oh man, what is the word? Like periods of extreme, like, oh, we have to do this now. And sometimes we're not on the same wavelength of like, hey, I'm all in on this thing. Like, we have to do this, when in reality, like, you might be in between dealing with your daughter or coming back from a vacation, or like having things just be a little bit different in the time frame that you're looking at something, and then in another time period, it's like, you're all in on something. And I'm like, just managing our like, schedules and different emotions that we have about certain things, where when we're all in together, it's like this, we're riding this thing. We're never all off, but it's like some days I'll be like, we really have to focus on this. And you're like, it's not a priority. Like, it's just, I would say that the managing of each other's like personal lives is probably something how could you know? You just don't know. And we're at different stages in our lives. Like, I am, I have a girlfriend, but I'm not married with kids, and you are. And so like, that is like, I want to respect that. That's what we're doing it all for anyway. So like, I never would want to pull you away from that. Yeah. Your daughter, I've seen videos of your daughter crying because she's talking to me.
So yeah. I think it's just hard, dude. Like, there's I agree with that. And I think there's some things where you'll be texting me and like, it'll be like super dialed in, and like you're that day you're obsessed with it and you want to get it done. I'm like, that ain't my day, bro. And then there's other things too, where I'm like pressing. And you're like, dude, I don't care, whatever you think. And I'm like, okay. I think that's allowed us to just do it ourselves in certain things. Like, here's your bucket, you go handle, here's my bucket. Like if I'm asking you for an opinion on like the color scheme or the brand, like I'm very fanatical about our brand. You're like, dude, I really don't care. Whatever you decide. I'm like, okay. But in the beginning we were going back and forth. You're like, I think this. And we would just spend hours. It was stupid. And then titles and descriptions of the episodes. Like there's a lot of thought that goes into all this stuff. And we're like, does it matter that much? And to us, we're like, yes, it does at this moment. We have to make it perfect because we need the reach. We need people to come in. And it's like, does it really matter? Like, I don't know. And then, who we hire for a coach. Like I'll be passionate about one person. You'll be passionate about the other. We have two and we're like, oh, how the hell do we decide? Because it's both of our money. So I just want people to hear this. Like it's a very much a ping pong back and forth. And I'm still managing the W-2 as well. Right. So there's certain things where like right now, like money is a big focus for both of us, but to churn and burn and run the business, like this is like how Cory survives. Right. So there's like, I'm not going to fight you on certain things. I'm like, dude, let's go. Let's let you thrive, let you survive. Like, let's keep this thing moving forward. And so I think we both just fill certain roles in that. And I think, it is funny because I know that I'll wake up to some text from you at like midnight or something. And I'm like, dude, I had to crash out because the baby was crazy yesterday. And I have no social battery left, And then there's other things where you'll be away on vacation and you'll be like, dude, I need to go ghost for like 5 days. I'm like, dude, or 3 days, whatever, not 5, but I'm like, dude, fine. I don't care. And then I'm wondering if you're like, I pretty much let you go. I never reply. Like if I'm away, I'll get a couple questions from you. Like you never quite totally go away. And so I'm like,
yes, that's true.
I'm like wondering if you're thinking if I'm not replying to you, you're like, is he working this weekend? Like, why is he not texting me? I mean, you told me not to, bro. So it's just there's so many things, dude. And you learn about each other and like, it's, there's no perfect thing. And I know we both think about these things as we go. So we're once again living through this in the episode, which is hilarious. But I got another thing for you. So I think if you could like reflect on yourself, and we talk about like us together, like our superpower, but you, like, what do you feel your true superpower is? That can be in life or business, and like maybe how it parlays into kind of our thing that we're doing together.
I think it's probably, I don't know if anybody's taken the Strength Finder tests, but I would highly recommend you take the Strength Finder. It's like basically gives you your top 5 things that you're really good at. And if you take something away from this episode, I would go do it. I think it's literally called Strength Finder 2.0. $30, you take a test and you learn about who you are in business and in life. One of the top 2 of the top 5 were things called communicator and woo. And woo is like, kind of the ability to go into a room and be a chameleon in a way and like kind of analyze, like not analyze, but like blend in and like learn about people and be curious and kind of spit it back out to them. That shows them that you're kind of listening and that you're there. So I think a superpower is the ability to amplify somebody else's voice. And like, if you have a story that you want to tell, most of the time I'm genuinely curious about how you did what you did and what it is that you've done and what makes you tick. So I think communication, and if you look up the woo, it's just kind of like you kind of are able to show up for people and make them feel like the main character. Now, that doesn't work 100% all the time, but I think that's allows us to be good podcasters and be good listeners and be good communicators and be good salespeople and be good at negotiation and just making sure that you understand the psychology of what it is that can make this a win-win for both people. So hopefully that explains it. I think that's probably the thing that I like to do and the thing that I hopefully do well.
Cool. I love it. What do you think you're most proud of that has nothing to do with money?
Probably the fact that I have anybody at all that looks up to me in a way, like just watching my younger brother like navigate through his life, and he's 23, and watching him be like, put so much emphasis on like, I want to be like Cory, just having people look up to you, I think is probably something that I'm really proud of and something that I don't take lightly. Even though that I have so many people in my life that I look up to that I like, oh man, I want to be like them. But I think the purpose of it all is to be like yourself, but take bits and pieces from other people that you can be more like, but never lose the fact that you really just want to be like yourself. And money only amplifies who you truly are. So it doesn't make you good or bad. It's just who you are amplified. So I think that I'm probably most proud of the fact that I'll never let dollars and cents become the main thing in terms of like the overarching goal. it's just a byproduct of I think doing good and wanting to help. And we all obviously do want to make money, but I'm proud of maybe just that and the people that look up to me. I'm proud that there are people that do that.
I like it a lot. I really do. So when you're not out trying to build empires and massive real estate mogul status for yourself, I'm just kidding. That's not really what you're trying to do. But truly, like outside of building the businesses and outside of entrepreneur world, how do you unwind and have fun?
Well, golf in the last couple of years have been like a huge thing for me, and I've become kind of like borderline obsessed. I would say the things that I really like to do is obviously spend time with my family and friends, but golfing and working out are two things that are just like, man, if I'm having a bad day and I can get into the gym, like I texted you the other day, I was like, I think I would be dead in a ditch somewhere if we didn't have the gym to like to get some to get some endorphins going. So the gym, and then I really, really love golf. I've kind of taken my my basketball, like the way I view that game and how that shaped me, and I've moved it into golf. Just the precision and the thought process and the concentration. I love it. And golf can be good, bad, and ugly, just like business. So I think those things are things I like to spend time doing. They kind of shape me and help me grow.
I love it. Yeah, I've seen you really take the golf world by storm in the last like couple of years. You were like, when you first told me you were, I only say this because we went, we were working together in our 9 to 5s. I got asked to go
to golf.
Yeah. Like we literally got asked to go to a tournament, and I was like, I had no one to go with. And I was like, dude, I'll go. Cause it was going to get me out of the job for the day. And I was like, I'm definitely down to get out of the office. And then they're like, do you know anyone that would golf or want to go? And we lived together at the time. And I was like, dude, they just asked me if I want to go golf. Do you want to go with me? And you're like, dude, I'm not that good. I'm like, I'm not that good. And so we laughed about it. We said, yeah, sure, we'll sign up. We went, and it was one of the most prestigious courses. I think it was called the Cricket Club in Philly. And like people that hear that are local, they're like, dude, holy shit, you play at the Cricket Club? We were the laughing stock of the tournament that day. And actually I had a blast. It was you and me laughing at each other. We're hitting little dribblers. It was hilarious. But I remember like starting there, right? And then you were like, oh, we're starting golf. And I just laughed. I'm like, okay, dude, you're going to start golf. And then you had this little, like, you got this chipper thing in your house, maybe like a putting green. I was like, oh, he bought clubs. He's pretty serious about this. Started taking lessons. Then, I'm like, I wonder what Cory's doing this weekend. Just I see pictures of you out on the links, really hitting it. So those last couple of years. And then I went and played with you one time. I remember it was you, myself, and like a couple friends. I'm just out there going to have fun. I use 3 clubs. I use the driver, the 3-wood chipper, and a putter, baby. Like I don't care. And you were like dialed, like so precise. I'm like, oh my God, he's actually good now. You had drilled one so close to the pin. And I was like, oh my, I don't think I can golf with him anymore. He's just like gonna be so pissed at me the whole time, just trying to be a goofball. And you guys waxed us. And so
it's funny, man. It's like anything though. Like I now play with people who are a lot better than me. So I'm like the worst golfer, which is the same thing about business and life. It's like surrounding yourself with people who are better. And then that's how I've gotten better. But I mean, look, if you're listening to this, I'm like a 12 handicap. So it's not like I'm a great golfer, but I got down from a 25 to a 12. And I just, now I'm like, oh man, like I can't wait. It's dude, it's kind of like anything. Like getting from a 25 to a 12 took 2 years, but getting from a 12 to a 7 is like, that's the next level. It's like business. It's like, that is like going from a six figure or a 5-figure business to a 6-figure, and then 6-figure to 7-figure is so much harder. And that's like I think that's why I like it.
Yeah.
It's just like it tangles your brain.
It challenges you.
And you think you suck. And then, it's like anything.
No, I really like it. Okay. So, I have like 4 more questions for you and we'll wrap up, because these are, and this is just the personal side here, which is fun. So if money didn't exist and you had to wake up every day doing one thing, what would it be and why?
I would be playing golf.
You like it that much?
If I had to wake up every day and do one thing and money didn't exist, yeah, I mean,
okay,
I'd probably play golf and I'd probably work out. It's funny, I would still do that. I mean, that has nothing to do with money. I'd see my friends and family. I would probably coach basketball. All those things we talked about. Yeah.
So you're
doing the things that, I don't have anything that I'm like not doing. I just think I want to do it bigger, right? Maybe travel a little bit more. That would probably be it. I don't travel. I don't travel a lot. I travel a decent amount, right? Anybody goes and they takes vacations and stuff, but I would love to see. I want to see this globe.
Yeah,
that's probably another thing. Yeah,
totally. Okay, cool. All All right. So what's one big stupid purchase you'd make if money didn't exist, wasn't a thing? You could just go have it tomorrow. What would you buy and why?
Maybe a Porsche. I'm a car guy. I definitely want a nice car. I have a paid off car right now, paid off Lexus. But I drive that because it's kind of like almost like a point of pride right now, and I'm like keeping my expenses low. Um, dude, I don't even know, man. I think that's part of the whole conversation of like, what is it that you really like even want the freedom for? I think probably a really nice car, maybe a really nice residence in a new, like San Diego or something that I could go like to, again, escape the cold and in the winter. I mean, the thing is, I kind of already do have that with a place in Tampa. But yeah, I mean, that I haven't really like put too much thought into it. Probably something that I can go enjoy with people, people that I love.
Yeah, this is interesting, man. So you basically just answered like these from the receiving end of this thing. You just want your life amplified at this point, right? You're already doing all the things, which is pretty cool. You've architected your life the way you've wanted to, just on a smaller scale. But I think for some people, it's really big. So that's a good thing, man. Congrats, you've built your life to where you want it to be. If you could spend, anyone would want to, or most people I think would want to see more of the globe. I love that, and then having the nice big house, a nice cushy car, feel good. Maybe to drive to one of the most prestigious golf courses in the world, dude. Maybe there you go. I will say, I played in the Dominican one time, and once again, I don't even know what a handicap is, brother. But I had the best time ever because it was amazing. We had a 4 caddy, and he was this like big Dominican guy in this white jumpsuit. I'm like, dude, I do not need you. Trust me. Like, you do not want to be my guy, and you have to take one. Pretty much, it was the best. Truly, one of the best experiences of my entire life. He was the coolest guy, teaching me how to golf, and like was our boy. So, that's my little small golf story. We can get into it later, but
I mean, golfing in the Caribbean it's just like,
it's different.
You're in nature. It's sunny. It's beautiful. Yeah. All year round. Yeah. That's
the palm trees, the glacier clear water. It was unbelievable. Actually, it was one of my top experiences ever.
That's why it's great getting out in nature. That's another thing.
Yeah. I know we're cooped up in these offices all the time, but, okay. One more for you. So who inspires you in business, life, or both? And this can be anyone. I just want to know, who you look up to, and why.
Man, that is a tough question. I think besides just like the people in my life already, I mean, you, my dad, like there's people like that. I don't know who's somebody that I don't think I've like pinpointed. I think somebody like Alex Hermosi is someone that is very inspiring. And he said like, cause he's had this crossover between like life and business that he sometimes talks about that I really like. He's probably the number one person that I'm like looking at like, oh wow, like he does things the right way. And even he talks about like marriage but I've also like begun to like start to look at people who like have a big family and who are successful in business, but like put their family first. And like, they say that 50% of marriages end in divorce. And like, I think I'm just like, wow, like that's not going to be me, like I'm inspired by people who have the business, have the family. It seems to be like this cohesive thing that really works and you don't have to put one before the other. And, another person, the Seth, who's one of my mentors who founded And1, as you mentioned, he's somebody that I look up to, business life. He's a thinker. He's a doer. And someone that I strive to be like. He's been married for 20 plus years. He's got 3 awesome kids who I know. And those are some people.
That's real. I like that, dude. You didn't mention any like pro athletes or anything. So it's really cool. I think we've evolved to say the least. So has your definition of success changed since you started this journey of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think so. I think success is like however you really want it to be, however you want it. It's defined by you. And that's what I think that people get away from, is that when we always tell people to get into rooms with bigger and better people, the problem is that there's a never ending game of that. And you can get into rooms with 7-figure entrepreneurs and 8-figure entrepreneurs and 9-figure, and then it's whatever. But there's a never ending uphill battle. So success really has to be defined in between your own years. And for me right now, it is looking at how can I create enough time freedom and have my lifestyle be controlled that I can do whatever I want when I want, but I don't need the private jet and I don't need the yacht. And believe me, we're far away from that anyway. So it's not even really in reach at this time, but I'm thinking like, I don't need to go impress people. That's not something that like even really like drives me. I just want to be able to, I said this to my girlfriend the other day, I just want to be able to go out to dinner and go to the bar and pick up a tab or pay for people around me, my small circle, not think about it, travel when I want, and live a lifestyle that like of true freedom, but not that I'm strapped to in terms of like, oh fuck, I got this $15,000 a month payment for this, and I got this payment for that, and like I have to keep up, and that's the whole thing of keeping up with the Joneses. So the success really comes from like keeping your lifestyle attainable, but like not having really the FU money, just like, hey, like, and not FU in a negative way, just like, I don't have to do that. You can't control me, and you can't tell me that I have to do that, because I have, a level of just contentment. So
I like it.
Yeah, I think that would be it.
That's a great answer. So what do you hope people say about you when you're not in the room? If they think, hey, who is Cory Jacobson? Or when they mention your name,
I just hope I hope that they think that I cared. That's really what I want it to come down to. That I would sometimes put their concerns and their worries and their problems at the forefront of like how I think. So if they have something that they need to work through that bothers them, that I've spent time, energy, and effort trying to connect them with the right person or help them get to the next stage, and not just said it, but actually like, hey, I know this person. I'm going to take the time out of my day and connect them via message, and, let them take it from there, but at least give people access. I hope that they said that I gave them access to somebody that I knew, if I could help them, to help further their journey. And that's really all you can ask for. There's so many people that you can provide help to. It's like you can't win in every situation. And I don't think it's worth trying to be liked by everyone, but I just hope that it's that people saw that we care. Both of us, really, not just me.
I love it. It's a really good answer. Okay, last question for me, we'll wrap up, is, so what's one message you want to leave listeners with who are just starting out on chasing something bigger or that bigger life?
I would say that one message, you can't, it's going to be really difficult for you to get to a level that you feel comfortable with if you don't know anyone, or you don't put yourself in situations where you can have conversations with those people. So if your norm is working the 9 to 5 and being around those people, and you're looking at like upper level management, and like that's your next step, and you don't really want that, or if you're looking at, even sometimes family or friends, if you're looking at those family and friends and you don't want the life that they live, then one, don't necessarily put their advice over anyone else's. Don't necessarily take their advice. There's going to be fears that get projected upon you when you ask them for advice, because that's the way that they see the world. I would say that the advice would be, do whatever it takes, networking wise, giving your services away for free, paying to get into rooms with people who have your best interests and who are thinking bigger. And you need to build this force field or this army of people that you can turn to when things are not working and things aren't going your way. And I don't think it's going to be pretty hard for you to lose if you're in that scenario, but that starts with giving them the value first to allow you to go into those rooms, and not thinking that you're made to be in them, So I think that would be it. That would be my advice, is just, who do you want to be like? Who do you want to mimic? Who do you feel comfortable like having good conversations with, and you gravitate in that direction.
Love it, man. Thanks for sharing. So is there anything we left off the table? This episode was really to unpack kind of who we are, how we tick, and really just a behind the mic on Cory Jacobson. Did we leave anything off the table that you want to share and leave listeners with, or did we cover everything?
No, I think we covered it all. And I don't want this episode to come across as like us just like, being selfish and just trying to tell our story, because the reason we started this podcast is to amplify other people's stories. I think it's useful for us to share like what's going on in our personal lives, and that the ups and downs, and we're still building. The day one was that we're building with you, and I want people to feel that we're building with you. So if you have questions, or you want to surround yourself with people who who are thinking kind of like us and who truly want to help others, like shoot us a message. I don't think we left anything out. I just don't want it to come across as like we're bragging in any way. I want it to be more so like, hey, these are the problems and the things and the way that we see the world. And maybe you're driving to a shit job that you know is a shit job that you want to get out of. And maybe you see the world in a similar way and you're looking for your people that can help you navigate the seas of getting in or out or the next stage or buying real estate or building wealth. And I hope that we can be a light in that sense. And I hope it came across that way. So that's really, to me, the purpose of doing this episode. And I hope you got to this point to hear that, because it's not to share successes and not give you the how to. And that's, we're growing and changing every single day. And sometimes I feel more successful than other days, but it's just this whole, it's really about the people that you're doing it with. So if you have any questions or you want to chat, reach out to us on Instagram. It's the best way to connect with us. I don't think we left anything else out.
Cool, man. Appreciate you sharing your story. Everybody else, listeners, thank you for tuning in. You know where to find us. We'll see you next week.